this video we will be looking at business aims and objectives, what they are and why businesses both new and old should set them. So what is a business aim? Well, a business's aims will be the main targets that they hope to achieve in a certain time frame. An aim is pretty generic, for example, to expand the business, to be an ethical business, to be the best employer. Objectives are much more specific. They should have a time frame and achievable tasks that are realistic. Objectives are like the stepping stones to your aim. If you're going to be the best employer, then how are you going to do this? What actions should the business take to achieve this? Aims and objectives also form an important part of the business planning process, as we have discussed in another video. To create a successful business, you are going to need a strong aim and some detailed objectives explaining how you will get there. So, why should a business set aims and objectives? That's an easy question to answer. If you don't know where you're going, how will you get there? As an entrepreneur setting out in business, some of the first questions that you should ask yourself are, what is my vision for this business? How many jobs will it create? How much profit will it make, and what should I do with these profits? And how fast can the business grow? Setting aims will provide a vision for your business, while setting specific objectives will help to identify the actions needed to get you there. To all the teachers out there, show all of these videos without any ads and gain access to our growing library of over 500 teaching worksheets. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? Sometimes employees won't necessarily know the business aim, its broad goal. These aims are often discussed every now and then by senior managers. But the problem with big aims is that they don't have teeth, and they don't say anything about how these aims can actually be accomplished. A business owner says they want to increase profits, and if they achieve this, will increase employee salaries. Well, that sounds amazing, but what specifically do these employees need to do to help the business achieve its aim? What part do they play? And this is where objectives come in. Objectives have more purpose. They are easier for everybody to understand, with specific actions that need to be taken on the roadmap to achieving the long-term aim of the business. With objectives, everybody should know what their role is and what they need to do to achieve this objective. So, these objectives can be either financial or non-financial, and this will depend heavily on the particular business and the circumstances that they are in. We will look carefully at these different types of business objectives, but first let's introduce this video's main example. This is Luke Stevens, and he is the owner of the Ship and Anchor Tattoo Studio in York. The Ship and Anchor opened their doors just 6 months ago, and business so far has been slow, as there are many competing studios in the area. Luke wants to provide his customers with a top-class tattooing experience from the initial consultation to the tattoo application and finally the all-important aftercare advice. Luke prides himself on the shop being a friendly and unintimidating place for customers to visit. Unfortunately, Luke has not yet set any aims or objectives for the studio, and he believes this may be one of the reasons that business is slow. It will be extremely important that Luke considers these aims and objectives carefully to ensure the studio's success. Let's take a look at the financial objectives a business may have and how these apply to the Ship and Anchor. The first financial objective we will consider is to increase sales. The business may have set an aim to increase sales, but they will need an objective to make this aim a reality. For example, they may set an objective of increase our sales from £200,000 to £500,000 by the end of the year, or increase total revenue from £3 million to £5 million over the next 3 years. The exact objective chosen will depend on the specific business, their size, and the product or service they sell. In our example of the ship and anchor, setting an objective to increase sales might be a sensible choice for Luke, especially as he hasn't had many customers coming through the door to get inked lately. A good objective for Luke to set might be increase the number of tattoo bookings from 5 a week to 10 a week by the end of the year. Bring this video and over 100 more to life with fun, interactive games, quizzes and case studies. Why not try the first 25 completely free by visiting BizzWizard.co.uk. Another financial objective a business could set might be to maximise profits, to make as much profit as they can by reducing their costs or increasing the number of sales. The business may set an objective like increase total profit by 50% over the next 6 months, or increase profit by 10% over the next 3 years. For Luke and the ship and anchor, maximising profits would not necessarily be the best objective, the best focus for the shop to have at the moment, as it is a relatively new business and first it will need to become more established within the city and increase the number of customers entering the shop. The next financial objective we will consider is gaining a larger market share. We cover market share and how it is calculated in another video, but it is basically the number of sales you have in comparison to the number of total sales in a certain market. For example, keeping the numbers simple, if there are 1,000 people a year that get a tattoo in York, and the ship and anchor get 100 of those people in a year, they would have a 10% market share. 10% of the tattoos being done would be done by Luke. If this market was a cake cut into 10 pieces, he would have one of those pieces. In this situation, a sensible business objective would be increase market share to a total of 25% by the end of the year. Before a small tattoo studio like Luke's worries too much about their market share, they must first consider our final financial aim, which is simply to survive. Over 60% of new businesses fail within the first 3 years, so for many new businesses, their aim will be to simply survive and get to the next year without closing down. This is what Luke has decided to set as his aim, his objective for the ship and anchor, to survive into the next year without going bankrupt. There are also many non-financial objectives a business could decide to set. Let's consider a few examples. For some entrepreneurs, they love the personal satisfaction of being successful and running their own business. This could, for some, help them form their business aim and the necessary objectives to achieve this. An example of a non-financial objective might be to operate a business they are proud to be a part of by achieving an employee satisfaction score of 95% on the annual staff survey. Many entrepreneurs also enjoy a challenge, and this could again form their business aims and objectives. For example, they may set an objective like to continually challenge everybody working within the business to be the best they can be by increasing productivity by 10% in the next 3 months. Some businesses will set an aim to change the world in a positive way, even if their impact is only small. But this is a pretty bold statement, so the business will need some detailed objectives in order to achieve this. They may set an objective around providing people within their community jobs, or around using ethically sourced materials in the production of their goods or services. Examples of an objective like this might be to ensure our cosmetic products contain 100% ethically sourced ingredients, or to increase the employment level within our community by 5% by providing stable jobs to local residents. In our example, Luke will probably want to focus on his main objective of survival before he worries too much about non-financial objectives. So, we now know what business aims and objectives are, but let's make sure we understand how to set some properly. For example, if Luke only sets the objective increasing sales for the tattoo studio, well, that isn't a very good objective. Increase sales by how much? And by when? A much more achievable objective for the studio could be increase weekly sales by 10% by the end of the month. Each of the video courses over at BizzWizard.co.uk also includes an interactive business case study that applies the knowledge learned to a real-world scenario. There are over 1,000 multiple-choice questions, each with detailed feedback, which tests students' understanding of the content. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? Luke has now set himself a much more achievable objective. In business, we call this a SMART objective. If Luke sets SMART objectives to support achieving his business aim to simply survive, he simply has a greater chance of success. You will likely have to set SMART objectives in most jobs you may have in the future. Every year when your manager reviews your progress, they will likely expect you to set some SMART objectives for the year ahead. But what does SMART stand for? Well, firstly, the S stands for specific. An objective needs to clearly state what is to be achieved, in this example, to increase sales. It then needs to be measurable. The objective should be measurable. The desired outcome should be a numerical value that can be measured. In this example, did Luke increase sales by 10%? It needs to be agreed. Is everybody in the business on board with this objective? Do they know how they can help the business to actually achieve it? As Luke is the only artist in his studio at the moment, this target would not need to be agreed with anybody else. But if he had employees in the future, he would need to know that they were on board with his objectives. The R stands for realistic. Is the objective you are setting a realistic objective? In our example, is it realistic that Luke can increase sales by 10% in a month? Well, yes, 10% is not a massive number to achieve, and it is realistic that Luke could accomplish this. However, setting an objective like increase sales by 500% this week, well, this is unrealistic for Luke and his small studio to achieve. Finally, the T stands for time-bound. Does your objective have a time frame? How can you know when to check if you have succeeded at your objective if it doesn't have a time frame? If Luke didn't specify when he would achieve his objectives, he could still be trying to increase sales by 10% in 100 years' time. If Luke is able to set some well thought through, SMART objectives, then the studio may have a chance of achieving its aim of surviving into the next year. Hopefully, if you visit York in the future, you will see a busy studio and maybe meet a successful entrepreneur. Always remember, aims describe the direction the entrepreneur wants the business to head in. Objectives define how they intend to get there. Businesses that do not identify their long-term aims and do not create SMART objectives will grow and develop more slowly than other businesses, or possibly fail altogether. This has been the BizzWizard. See you